I am Fist Shadow, as you guys know. Welcome to today's AMA. We've been doing introductions. I'll probably skip the introductions a little bit just because you guys know who we are at this point. And I want to thank people for joining today. I've noticed that our YouTube is gaining a lot more traction. So if you are curious, who are these two guys and why should we listen to them? We've made introductions probably in every AMA leading up to this point. You can go back and watch and listen to some of those AMAs. In fact, I was looking at that just before we jumped on here, and I noticed quite a few more people are watching the AMAs from the past. And also, if you have not checked out the Archer video from last week, please go check that out. Amazing, unbelievable work by the very talented Roscoe from our team. And also, some of you who are new, who weren't here when we released the original teaser trailer, please go and watch that. They're both on our YouTube channel. You can find that in the official links. You can also find it at fifthkingdom.com at the very top, and also at the very bottom footer, as well as all of our social media icons and links. Zulfiqar, how are you? I think you're muted.
Alhamdulillah, it'd be better if I knew how to unmute my mic. Good morning, everyone.
Well, today
I'm uncharacteristically quiet because I'm going over the thread contest winners, which is, I know people are interested in about, and just double checking everything to make sure we selected the correct ones.
This is what happens when you have so many great entries. It's actually difficult to find the right one. And the thing is, sometimes there are no right ones and wrong ones. They're just some that are a little bit better.
Well, it's tough because if you're grading, like let's say we're grading on a 10-point scale, a 9.8 and a 9.7, they're so close. I don't know how Dave Portnoy does it. I don't know how he does it, but we'll figure it out. We're doing it live.
So if you don't know, me and Zulfiqar are the two founders here. He is creative visionary. I am more of a systems person. He envisions rather, and creates the puzzle piece. I make sure that it fits inside the puzzle. So we have a very good play on each other here. But we are going to discuss in this AMA. We're going to, like I said, go over the pre-submitted questions. We'll do the best we can to man the chat. I'm going to try to play the game and stream that here, and I'll try to get that recorded to include in the AMA replay as well. So I'm going to, for the first time, try to juggle maybe 3 or 4 things at once. So give me a little bit of grace if you don't mind. I'll try to play the game and stream that, man the chat, ask and answer some of the questions, and participate in the conversation to the best of my ability. But as you know, yesterday we released the beta version of the game. You can go check the announcement if you'd like as well. But there's quite a few updates that have been made to it. One of them is that we are officially renaming the game to Delvers the Ember Depths. Whereas before we were called Dungeon Survivors. That was an alpha. You guys who have been playing the alpha have been helping us significantly with bug reports and improvements, and you're still doing that, by the way, as well. But that actually has really helped us in crafting this new beta that we have available. I'll also make a video probably over the weekend or by Monday going over the game, what the new updates are, how things work, etc. There's a couple of little bugs here and there we're working through, so give us a little bit of grace on that. But this is released yesterday, and those of you who played the alpha have had the benefit of we've been talking about this for a while, have had the benefit of being able to earn embers a lot easier and being able to earn characters a lot easier. You'll notice now the characters are not quite as easy to get anymore, and Ember is not quite as easy to get anymore, and that's for a reason. That we like to reward people who are here early, right? It's like starting an AMA, not waiting 20 minutes for the last person to show up. Rewarding people early for helping build the system really is what you guys are doing by playing the game, by filling out bug reports, by making suggestions. You're really helping craft it, and that's a very important step as we release more updates, is being able to make sure this is crafted based on community experience. Not my experience, not my opinion. Maybe that's included, but community actual experience, user-generated content in the sense of suggestions and improvements and things of that nature. So we are officially in beta. Zulfiqar, anything you want to discuss about the game? We can go into a little bit about what some of the major updates are. I can start streaming here a little bit, and then we can get into some questions.
No, only because as we were selecting the questions, I realized that if I talk about the game, it answers a lot of the questions that people were asking. So
Okay.
I figured I'd just go through their questions. And
Good point. So let's do this. Let's ask some questions. I'll stream the game, and then we can just, as we're answering the questions, just expound on it. Since what has been actually happening in a lot of these AMAs is we'll answer something, or rather we'll describe something, then answer it, and it's kind of the same thing. So how about we do it a little bit like that? So one of the very first questions that we have is from Hope Michael 1707, and he's asking, many games have an exciting first few hours but struggle to stay engaging over time. What gameplay loop does the team believe will keep the game enjoyable hundreds of hours, hundreds of sessions after the beta?
Un momento, por favor. Where? Okay, here we go. I thought you said Pope Michael, and so I was looking for that on the list, and I was like, do I have the wrong list? Oh, great. This is like that dream where you're on stage in your underwear and you're at the wrong recital. Let me see here. Okay, so this is the biggest key, guys. It is a very fun roguelike game, but there's a play to earn element. What we did here at Fifth Kingdom was we took 3 different elements of the Web3 experience. We took NFTs and DeFi, we took play to earn, and governance. And for lack of a better term, we fixed them. We were able to synthesize all 3 of them together to create a game loop. So when the question is, it's fun for a few hours, this game is fun for more than a few hours. But how does it stay engaging over time? The embers that you're questing for have an actual use case that can benefit your fiat wallet, right? That means it makes you real dough. For people who aren't used to the term fiat wallet. So what keeps it engaged? It's fun. And it actually does something that you can tangibly benefit from in the real world, the waking world, the non-gaming world, the world on the other side of the looking glass, Alice. So which gameplay loop do I think is going to make it most enjoyable over hundreds of sessions after the beta? It's the embers that you earn and how you use them. I hope that answered the question. It's all about the embers.
Yes, it is. I'm going to try to.
So you're really going to try to... Okay.
I'm going to do the best I can. It's, I will say streaming and talking in a stage is not playing and cooperating very well at the moment for me, but I'm going to try. I don't know if you guys can you see my screen at the moment?
Yes, we see it. You're at the hero selection.
Oh, perfect. Because on my side, it's just like spinning. Okay, perfect. We'll try to play a little bit if you guys are watching.
Guys, if you don't see the dream, you just like click on it. It should be like right to next to Shadow's name. So just click on it so you see the whole screen.
Alrighty, so I will go through, since Shadow is doing the hard labor, I will go through the questions. And now it's my turn to butcher people's names. We'll see. This next question is from Goneboy1. If players could only remember one innovation that makes Dungeon Survivors different from other dungeon crawling survival games, what would you hope that innovation is? And why is it central to the future of Fifth Kingdom? I sort of answered this in the previous question, but the biggest innovation I hope people walk away with is the fact that it's not tied to a liquidity pool. The play to earn is not a lazy rehash of what every other play to earn game has failed at, which is releasing a token, having it backed by nothing but hopium, and hoping that enough new members come in, input money to ingest new capital into the game so that you can continuously destroy the liquidity pool. So there is no liquidity pool. The biggest thing I hope you all remember is that we have fixed play to earn gaming. How? The tokens that you receive are used in the system and it's paired with what the High Lords do. That's the biggest innovation. We're the first ones to do it, and inshallah, it's the highlight of the movie.
Okay, so trying to stream the game crashed my Discord, so we're not going to do that right now. We'll just revisit that. In fact, I was going to plan to make a video on it anyway.
Shadow, I'm going to forgive you this one time, but don't make a habit of it.
I apologize. Okay. So I'd like to answer the question by Hope Michael as well. What makes it exciting? Well, a lot of games, I feel like, especially in the Web3 space, whether in the Web3 space or just games in general, games cannot be a set it and forget it type system. And what I mean by that is the game that we released in alpha would have been the final version for a lot of play to earn Web3 gaming, maybe a year down the road. I'm being serious because they would have had to take users' money. They would have had to go and come up with the concept and then build it, right? So we had that as an alpha before we've even launched, before we've taken in any funds. And you'll notice that wasn't the final version. So it's actually not about a set it and forget it. It's about here's the initial version and we're going to continue to improve it. So I hope that as you see the game improving, that basically proves our point that we've been saying this whole time, which is that we have internally a several-year roadmap that we plan to continue releasing different updates and different features. You've seen Bloodlines and Academy and Titles and Hatchery and the Harbor, all these different things. Those are really coming. Those are real systems that we are going to really build. And those of you who are here early will benefit from those. Just like you are benefiting, you'll notice if you played the alpha, Well, now in the beta, you are benefiting from playing the alpha because you had embers, you had the characters. So I hope what that does is that proves the point that as we release new systems, you're going to benefit from those systems by being early. And I just think that when it comes to making sure the game is as immersive as possible, it's continue to improve it. It's not just a set it and forget it. It's like picture there's a new iPhone every year, but you have to go out and buy it. In this case, the game will just update and you're here early, so you will benefit from that update in some way or fashion. Did anything else you want to add to that, Zulfiqar, before we go to the next question?
Nope, I hit it. So the next question, I think you missed it because you dropped off, was basically what's the biggest innovation people are going to remember about the game? I said it was the play to earn element, the fact that we've divorced it from a liquidity pool. There is no bag left to hold. I keep saying that because these are terms we use in Web3. Our system, our entire fifth kingdom ethos is completely divorced from what other people have. You could have a bear market, we would never know it. What other people do doesn't affect us. Some politician gets caught on Epstein Island and he has to sell all his crypto to pay his legal bills. It's not going to affect your bag as long as you're with Fifth Kingdom. You go buy meme coins, you're probably getting dumped on. So that's the innovation I hope people remember about our play to earn game, is that what other people do doesn't affect you in regards to lowering the value of the items that you earned.
That's why we work so well together. I didn't hear you answer the question, but that's what I was going to answer with the question as well, which is that I think the one thing to remember is there's a lot of play to earn out there. There's a lot of DeFi out there. There's a lot of NFTs out there. I have not seen the three of them married together. In fact, I won't name names. I'm not going to name drop, but I was looking at different NFT projects. And by the way, I was commenting on some of the YouTube comments on the Archer video where people were calling us an NFT project, which is fine. It's a crypto project. That's okay. That's what people call businesses in this space. I'm like, we're more of a Web3 business than a crypto project. But regardless, I was looking up crypto projects last night, mostly in the NFT space. And I kept asking myself the same question. What does it do? What does this do? And some of them were like a revenue share, but I'm thinking, okay, even the business, like a revenue share model, it doesn't work if the business is broken. So now you're relying on the business functioning, and you're relying on the business actually being profitable, even for a revenue share model to work. So I just looked up project after project, and I couldn't figure out what the heck they did. I couldn't figure out what the NFT did. So when I look at what is one of the most what is the one thing that people will remember that is unique and innovative with the gameplay? It's the fact that you have the gameplay that is connected to the DeFi that's married in the middle with NFTs as your identity. And I think, if you look at different, it's sort of like if you look at the different parts of an engine, you could build a car, but you could also build a boat, but you could also build a motorcycle. You could also build a plane. You could also build a train. I'm not recommending you put all those together, but in crypto, in Web3 specifically, we've married a whole lot of different components together into the gameplay. And with the progression, and I think that's key with the progression, the fact that your progression follows your Lord, your NFT, that's your identity. That is you in the Fifth Kingdom. So if you sell your Lord, you are selling your progress as well. So it's a very unique. It's not that, and I was seeing this actually with a lot of the threads, which I was impressed by. A lot of you folks in the threads were mentioning that, a lot of NFT projects in the space, well, if it's a bear market, oh, well, I guess they're not going to do well. Well, if that's the only thing that determines your success, then you're just trying to ride a wave rather than create the wave. So we are creating the wave, and we're doing that with the immersive, or rather the innovative connectivity of these various systems in the gameplay.
And I'll just be candid. Everyone, we're fortunate to have you, and I don't want to say you're fortunate to have us, but we know a lot of project founders from some of the largest Web3 communities that you've definitely heard of, and I won't cast shade by name, but they're all lazy, and they're not, I don't want to say they're not intelligent, but all they say is the same thing. I'll talk to somebody and they'll talk about this great idea they have, and they'll get me hyped on it. I'm like, dude, that's sick. When are you going to come out with it? Kingdom's launching this month. And they'll say, oh no, we're waiting for a bull market. And I'm like, why? If it's a good product, put it out. And that just tells me that they're just waiting for people to get silly with their money again. There is no value in their product. Ladies and gentlemen, Sith and Jedi, Otherkin, Dragonkin, however you identify, Wallahi al-Azim, I can promise you, whenever we put out a product, it's never going to be determined by what the sentiment of the market is. Our products are premium, and the products will speak for themselves. And if they come out this month and everyone else is getting washed out because they bought meme coins, that sucks for them. 7 years from now, nothing will change. Every time we put something out, it will be worthy of your time and your money.
As a
That's
side note,
not
sorry, I was going to say, as a side note, a lot of blockchains have launched during bear markets. Avalanche launched during a bear market. I believe even Phantom launched during a bear market, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a lot of large billion-dollar blockchains that have launched during bear markets as well. So that's just a side note. And I saw this mentioned in many of the threads. I'm seeing some of you avatars. I'm going to call you guys avatars in the AMA right now. And I recognize you from your threads. So that's why I'm giving you credit where credit is due, because I saw this mentioned continuously that people wait for a bull market, buy an NFT, hope the floor doesn't fall out, and hope that the hype continues and then they can flip it, and then all of a sudden everything just goes quiet. In fact, I even saw when I was looking up NFT projects, a couple of them rugged. They launched, people bought it, and then they woke up next morning and their Twitter account's gone. Everything's just shut off. So it's still happening even today. It's pathetic, but it's still happening today. So I'll go ahead and jump to another question here. Actually, I'd like to ask or rather run through a question that was posted in the chat, if that's okay. We'll bounce back and forth a little bit. Gabriel asked, this was the very first question asked. Gabriel asked, yes.
Okay. Sorry, I just real quick, just as we selected these questions so they didn't interfere with each other. If you go to the chat, it might then interfere with one of the questions we elected to choose.
Okay, we could continue on with the pre-submitted questions.
So mine would just stick the strip. I'm a scatterbrain person.
Yeah, no worries. We could jump into the chat. We're going to get to Gabriel's question anyway, so we'll get to that towards the end.
So
here's a
people want to
question.
hear.
This actually will connect into the lore a little bit, which would be a little bit more of your kingdom, we'll say. Will success in the game, by the way, you'll notice I'm avoiding using the word Dungeon Survivors. I'm calling it the game because the name has been changed, but the pre-submitted questions didn't know that at the time, so I'm just avoiding using the name. The new name, you can see that in the announcement. So check out that announcement if you have not had a chance to do so. Will success in the game influence our household lord or companions elsewhere in the kingdom? And the answer is yes. And I've actually seen this with a couple of the questions, Zulfiqar, is how will the gameplay influence the story outside of the game? How do the two connect to each other? That is actually a question that I've seen quite a bit. Now, the success in the game influencing elsewhere in the kingdom is going to depend on whether you want to primarily play the game and be a delver who owns the mine and earns that way, or if you want to also play the High Lord, where when a mine unlocks, you're depositing and earning that, or both, right? That's going to depend on household. That's going to depend on your gameplay. Like I said, if you want to claim a mine, you need Ember. Ember's a little bit more difficult to get now. So how are you going to get that Ember? Through completing the tasks. You might need in-shop items. You might need to have a little bit of a different strategy. So different things will play into that on the player side. And on the High Lord side with the household, depending on the companions you have, depending on the primary lord you have. I've posted a couple of videos about this, about how the strategy plays into this components. You deposit into the mine, that's going to influence your return, your strategy. So there's different components, and you could play both of these sides, right? So as far as how the gameplay will influence that will definitely be influenced by how you strategize in the game and how you strategize as a High Lord in your household. In terms of the lore, Zulfiqar, could you connect that component for us if you don't mind? How will the game and the lore play off of each other a little bit?
Brother, I don't know what question you're on. I think you skipped a couple.
I'm on the second question below bullet Q3, but what I'm doing is I'm combining some other questions that have been asked that I've seen. And one of the questions that I do see asked frequently is how the lore and the game will influence each other. Do they influence each other? Because that is part of the kingdom, is the discovery, the exploration, the story, the narrative, and the gameplay.
I'm sorry, so which one was it? I'm trying to go off the list here. Kells was the next one.
Bullet Q3 was the first question. You see that one at the top?
No, Hope Michael was the first. Lucas BTC.
No, scroll up.
Then Kelcran.
You need to scroll up.
I needed to scroll up.
You need to scroll up.
I needed to scroll way up. Okay, so from an architectural point of view, right? So not just the lore, but the architectural point of view. When you play the game, you execute quests and you get your embers. Those embers are what unlock mines, which then allow the mines to be claimed with your ember, and then the High Lords do the deposits. So that's how we combine the DeFi and the play to earn. From a lore point of view, High Lords don't want to be getting dirty. They don't want to get in the muck. They've got too much to live for. They've got dreams. They've got visions. They're high-level analysts. They're using second-order thinking. They're a little bit bougie. So they outsource fighting these creepy crawlies in the caves, like good entrepreneurs. So what they do is they find young men and women of virtue and valor, who are ambitious, who are tough, and might wield elemental forces, right? So what they do is they outsource the dirty work, so to speak. And what that also does, it also gives people a chance not just to do dirty work, but to gain fame. And so from a lore and progression point of view, the Delvers are the ones that are out there. They're exploring this new southern continent. They're the ones that are going into the depths. They're coming back and they're telling stories and they're reporting what they're hearing, what they're seeing, and what they're doing. Now, do people believe them? Maybe not. Some of you might not have seen the wiki yet, but sometimes a Delver can tell a story, and it's so much like if you talk to war veterans. I myself am a United States Marine, and I served in Afghanistan. And there's sometimes I would be sitting with people I served with in Afghanistan, and I'll hear them telling a story, and I don't quite remember it that way. Or, it's funny how when you meet people, they're all special forces, and they're all Green Berets, and they're all Navy SEALs. So it's a little bit one of those things. Or if you're speaking to your uncle at dinner, it's weird how they all used to be the high school quarterback. And if the coach would have just put them into that last game, they'd have won. They'd have went to state. He'd have got a scholarship, and things would have been different, right? It's the full Uncle Rico. So from a lore point of view, that's the relationship between the two. From an architectural point of view, for the project, they're symbiotic. And then from a lore point of view, it's just a different culture that's added onto our world to make it feel more lived in. These people are the gunslingers. Your Delvers, they're the gunslingers. They're the superstars. They're the iconoclasts. They are the K-pop idols. They're the famous people. Everybody wants to be them. Everybody wants to hear about them. But what happens when a Delver is no longer capable of delving? And we go into that a little bit too. A lot of the inspiration came from my own experiences and just being in the entertainment space. If you've, and I said this on the last AMA, if you've ever been, if you know anybody who's an entrepreneur or a wantrepreneur, or if you know anybody who's like an actor, that space, there's the highest highs and the lowest lows. Those are our Delvers. They have the highest highs and the lowest lows. So get good at the game and keep it high. Inshallah. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, I believe so. Negative Crypt 2 is asking how the upcoming beta update will change. Well, it's not upcoming anymore. It was at the moment this was asked, but how it's going to change the gameplay experience compared to the previous. It's a bit of a, not a loaded question, but it was a big update. So there's quite a few things in there, and I would encourage you to not just read the announcement, but play the game yourself to determine it. But just really briefly, I think the primary change is the way in which you earn Ember. That is the biggest change. Before it was just you run around slaying enemies, and that's fun. That's actually still some of the tasks that you will notice that you can perform to earn Ember. But as I just said, primarily the way to earn Ember is through tasks. Those tasks are easy, medium, hard, or legendary. So the greater the difficulty of the task you complete, the more Ember you will be able to claim. So you'll be able to claim your Ember through actually performing specific tasks in the game, which keeps it fresh and keeps it unique and keeps it different than just running around slaying enemies, although that is one of the tasks as well. So it's keeping that fresh. And by the way, those tasks are random. So each day, the easy, medium, hard, and legendary do have different tasks that generate. In fact, I think that was mentioned in the game change log, so you can go and look that up and you could see what the different tasks are, so you can prepare for that. We also have different bosses in the game. There should be, I believe there's 5 new bosses. And you'll notice that some of the attacks and the weapons in the game, the bosses now have, but to a greater degree. One that comes to mind, for example, is the Hell Horse. If you have fought that boss yet, you'll notice it's a little bit like the Burning Boots, except they're permanent on the map. So it's like the version of the attack that you have, but to a greater degree. So the bosses are new, and they have different attacks that you can get in the game, but to greater degrees. We also, of course, have an array of new weapons. I believe there's 10 new weapons in the game, and there's another 10 or 12 you can buy in the store, which, speaking of the store, is a whole new component as well. So you have permanent perks. So if you see perks in the store, those are permanent upgrades to your character. So no matter which character you select, that perk will impact that character positively. You can see those in the store. You also have consumables. You have an inventory. So when you purchase a consumable in the store, either with Ember or with USDT if you choose to do that, you will be able to consume those items in the game. That will help you complete tasks. That will help you climb the leaderboard. And then, of course, you can purchase the additional weapons, the additional characters, or you could purchase the bundles. We've taken some of those and said, hey, if people want to purchase these as a bundle, we should give them a discount. So those are all available now in the store. And one of the things that we're going to be doing as well, and we've hinted at this, but this should be coming fairly soon within the next week, if not sooner, is competitions and competitions for prizes, for USDT prizes. That's where having the daily and the weekly leaderboard is going to determine how much you win. Well, how much you win is going to determine your strategy in the game. So all things that work. This is just the beta, and in fact, there is some Easter eggs in the beta. If you find any of the Easter eggs, please let us know. Zulfiqar, you're up. How do you answer that?
I think you hit it. It's just more of what we're used to. In fact, there's a couple new features that I haven't even found yet in the game because I haven't had a chance to test the beta out. But one thing I wanted to mention was that it's called the beta because now every feature is now active and live. Technically, if we wanted to go to market right now, the game's good enough for government work. Good.
Also,
good.
Lucas BTC's kind of the same question. It was kind of the same question we literally just answered, which was about daily Ember becoming more difficult. Can you share what's changing and what if that already starts with the beta? Yes, it starts with the beta. And we'll add different things like beta. There's alpha, there's beta, there's eventually public release. Like the game's going to continue to improve. So keep that in mind. The different ways you'll be able to use Ember, the different use cases for it, different ways you can get it in the game. So keep that in mind as well. So I think that answers that because we just answered that. So I'll just glance over that. But here's a great question by Kel Crown, which is, you've designed households, delvers, and sovereign as interconnected systems rather than isolated mechanics. So we talked about the various systems. They're interconnected with each other. How are you thinking about maintaining long-term balance between the capital-driven participation, which is with the households, and the activity-driven participation, which is the gameplay, so that neither side dominates the ecosystem over time? That's a really good question. Zulfiqar, you start first, and then I'll answer that second, if you don't mind.
Well, because they're symbiotic, they can't overpower each other. A High Lord cannot deposit or deploy USDT unless that mine had been discovered via gameplay tasks being completed, and the mine being claimed by delvers via Ember. And then ultimately, I went into this a little bit, I think a couple AMAs ago, but the way that the Sovereign is set up, and for those that aren't familiar, the Sovereign is the name of the senatorial system of guild leaders runs the Fifth Kingdom. So the Fifth Kingdom is ruled by a series of guild leaders. These guild leaders are called Archons, and the Archons collectively make up the Sovereign. Each guild, no matter how powerful you are, your Archon only gets one vote. So if you have, and I'll use just some terms, some colloquialisms, if you guys aren't familiar, we've heard the terms like whales. A whale in crypto is someone who has a lot of money. Well, when you play these kind of play-to-earn games, or when you play games, we have levels beyond that, because there's whales, and then you've got krakens, and then you've got leviathans, right? So let's say a guild comes in here and they deploy $1 million. They deploy $1 million USDT into the system. That's great. If there's a guild that deployed 10,000, how many votes do each of them get? They each get one vote. So suddenly that Leviathan has to go to that Dolphin Guild and try to build consensus. So the system is a little bit ingenious, and I can't take full credit for it because I didn't invent the senatorial system or representative democracies. I'm a few millennia shy, but that's the way our system works. You participate, you elect whom represents you, and that person that represents you has just as much authority to represent your interests as the whale across the street. So there really is no way, because it's a checks and balances system between the three prongs, there is no way for one to out-leverage the other, candidly.
Also, bear in mind, you want to create a proper symbiotic relationship between the gameplay and the households to the degree in which you don't want Ember becoming too easy to get, right? So you don't want, like, in other words, you'll notice that if you need 10,000 Ember to open up a mine, well, one person cannot do 10,000. I mean, you just can't, because you only have a limit of 100 a day. Maybe that'll change later, but you have a limit of 100 a day. So it takes a group global effort to get that mine open. That means it's not up to one person or two people or even 10 people. It's up to the community as a whole to get that mine open. And then that is what allows the High Lords to deposit. So it's a back and forth system, and you want both of them working together in a dance. You don't want one person dancing to jazz and another person dancing to hip hop. It's probably not going to look very good at the same time, right? So they both have to be dancing to the beat of the same tune. And that's a balance, and that's a delicate balance. So whenever we make a change, not a change, but I would say an update, such as the way you earn Ember, the maximum amount you can earn, how you earn it. All of that is to ensure that both sides are congruent with one another and that they are properly balanced. So it's a delicate balancing act. So that's all designed that way to make sure that nobody can overly dominate the system. And there was also a secondary question by Kel Crown, which is, I think, a good one. It says, since the ecosystem is backed by real revenue and structured buybacks rather than emissions, this is a very good point to make, what mechanisms are in place to ensure that sustainability during high redemption periods without slowing down user growth or participation incentives? I have a thought on that. Zulfiqar, you go first. I'll jump in after you're done.
Easy. So because our earnings are capped, because the yields, the discovery rates are capped, it's already pre-baked in. So technically, Kel, we do not have high redemption rates. It won't happen. I've said it before. The reason why we have the rates that we have are because we consider the max rate to be our ultimate liability, and month after month we have no concerns with our ability to meet liabilities, even if every single participant wanted their tokens bought back and nobody wanted to use them in the system to build the kingdom. So we don't and we won't actually have, and it's just a mathematical reality. You could take our entire system, plug it into mathematical calculators. There will be no high redemption time periods because everything is pre-calculated. This is part of the static limits that we put on the system.
So there's only so many, is exactly how I was going to answer it. There's only so many NFTs in the system, and there's only so many odds of rolling a specific type of discovery rate. If you haven't watched my household, actually you should watch really all 3 videos I've made. This will answer the question greatly. But the higher, which is really the same thing as minting your NFT, the household, how the household works, and then the strategy video, because you'll notice in the strategy video, I rolled a rare, but I ended up getting 3.8 out of that. And I had to use up 6 NFTs to do that. So it actually reduced if anything, liabilities in the system because I built out a household. If one person has 6 NFTs, that's 6 NFTs taken by one person as opposed to 6 users who all having a base discovery rate. So that's one component. But the other thing, as Zulfiqar mentioned, you can only earn up to 5% in your discovery rate in your household. So there's no way to go above that. And I think a lot of people probably are not going to get there. A good portion of you could, with the proper household, get there very easily. But because it is capped, also because the mines only have so much in resources that could be claimed, there is a finite limit. So it's not as if you're going to have a situation whereby everybody's going to go to the bank at one time and try to pull their money out situation, which if you know the banking system, that doesn't work because the money's not actually there, right? We don't have that problem in our ecosystem because it's baked into, again, it's like the previous question. Everything has to be a delicate balance. You can't have one side of the system being out of order and the teeter-totter. It all has to be balanced. So in this situation, because everything's capped, everything's finite, there's not a situation we're going to ever run into whereby people can just all come at one time and just try to claim.
Brother, could you imagine if we did operate like a bank? You go to claim your SPL tokens, and then we ask you, submit an essay on why you want to withdraw your own tokens. And if we approve, we'll let you.
If you ever try to go to the bank and withdraw a lot of money, find out what kind of questions they ask you, and then you'll find out the money's actually there. It's a little experiment for those of us who are in crypto, probably already know this, but just a little fun experiment.
Well, there was one time, I won't go into too much detail, but I tried to withdraw a certain amount of money, and I was buying a pool. I was updating my house and I was building a pool, and I was trying to withdraw my own money, and then my bank asked me why I wanted to withdraw the money, and I said, because it's mine. I didn't know I had to go into details with you about what I want to do with it.
Yeah, it's not yours. That's the problem. That's part of the problem. You give the wrong answer. It's not your money. In the bank,
silly me.
Yours. That's why. Well,
silly me.
Is that not why we love decentralization and distributed ledger technology and blockchain and digital assets and cryptocurrency? Is because of the banking system and the problems that it holds.
And it's like I keep telling people, if I can take it away from you or diminish it from a control panel, you didn't own it. Everything in the Fifth Kingdom that you purchase and create is yours until you elect to trade it away to somebody else. Then it becomes theirs.
Well, and that's how you know it's yours, because if you create progress with your lord and you sell that lord and somebody buys the lord, they're buying not just your lord, but they're buying your progress. That's how you own it, and I don't own it. Just as a side note. So just going on down with the questions. Firebrand 949 is asking, I think we answered this. We could just go through this one really quickly. As the game continues to evolve, could player achievements, discoveries, or community milestones influence future content updates or even become part of the broader history of the Fifth Kingdom universe? A little bit more of the lore question I was getting into earlier, but you could touch on that briefly if you don't mind.
Yes. So even when we have new features that are ready to be shipped out, you will have to do things. The community will have to meet certain metrics in order to get them unlocked, and those will be global community-wide events. I hit on this, I think, 1 or 2 AMAs ago. But so, for example, and I'll give you just one example. Once a certain amount of mines have been discovered, then we start the hatchery counter. So the hatchery could be ready to go tomorrow. It's not going to go until we have X amount of mines in existence, and then we start an RNG counter. And there's going to be a global event people can participate in. And then every week, every day, every time a new mine gets discovered, every time a new claim gets made on those mines, there's going to be a chance of an egg being discovered. And this is how we're going to start seeping in the new systems. So I've said it before and I'm saying it again, and I hope people understand that the word picture is going to match the product. Everything you do in the Fifth Kingdom, whether you're a Delver or a High Lord, is going to affect the system. It all matters, it's all meta, and it's all important. Firebrand, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that's great. So the next question by Software Dynamism. Is an NFT equally needed for this? I think he means the game. Is there anything non-NFT based in the pipeline? So first of all, the game's free to play. You don't need an NFT to play the game, but you need an NFT to earn. To participate in the play to earn system, you will need an NFT. You can't claim a mine with your Ember without an NFT staked as a lord in your household. You can't deposit into the mine without an NFT staked as a lord in your household. So you need that in order to have the different components that we've discussed really become enabled for you. So if you have the play to earn, if you have the DeFi, and you have the NFT in the middle, without the NFT in the middle, the two systems don't really work with each other. But you can still play the game. And in fact, I was thinking about this. There really is a way to earn without an NFT in the game, and that would be when we are running our competitions and we are giving away prizes in the game. You could theoretically play the game, you could have your strategy, and you could climb the leaderboard, and if you're just better than everybody else, you could still win, technically. So if you're better, but that takes a lot more strategy and competition and things like that. To actually participate in the play to earn mechanism, either on the DeFi or on the game side, you do need an NFT for that. Zulfiqar, is there anything you wanted to add to that question?
It's just one thing I'll say and make sure that there's no confusion on. The Fifth Kingdom is built for its citizens. It's like Starship Troopers. Service guarantees citizenship.
Exactly. And by the way, we actually have, this is unannounced at the moment, so I'm not going to go for more detail, but we do have plans to improve your gameplay by having an NFT. I won't go for more details, but I'll put it to you this way. Even playing the game, if you have an NFT, is going to be better just overall in future updates. So,
well, I'll just throw in that a little bit. So we're going to be introducing vocations, and that will introduce new systems. Well, some of your companions, right now, all companions have a secondary trait called Elite Mining Expert, right? Because we only have mines. As we introduce more services and features and we explore new things as a community, there's going to be more vocations and there's going to be more slots that can be assigned to your household. And of course, it would make sense to have a Delver in your group, which then increases your gameplay, right? So your household will be able to affect your gameplay experience eventually.
What I also, I also think to myself, if I'm going to play the game, wouldn't I want to have, I play a lot of first-person shooters, so if there's any Call of Duty players in here, I've bought season passes, I've bought skins, I've bought weapons. I've never gotten any money back from Infinity Ward or Activision. They've never paid me for playing Call of Duty. And it's really weird. They come out with a new Call of Duty every year, and they expect me to buy the season pass again. And the old season pass doesn't do anything. It's really funny how that works. So I think about, if I'm playing a game, I could climb the leaderboard, but wouldn't I want to have my progress in that game actually do something and mean something and have value? Well, if that's attached to your NFT, then you are actually obtaining that value over time as you progress in the game. So it actually makes your NFT more valuable and more worthwhile. So just from my standpoint, even if you can play the game for free, which is great, play the game for free, but I would want to actually have value and I would want to earn something as I'm playing the game. That's just me personally. But I'll go ahead and anything you want to add to that before we jump to the next question?
No, I love it's funny you mentioned Infinity Ward because we know one of the original founders of Infinity Ward. And I talked to him about this once and he was like, The lobby, the experience, that is your reward.
They don't seem to be very high on the revenue sharing model. They keep the money for themselves. Let's see. So Just Jaden001 is asking, every great fantasy world has legendary figures whose stories shape the present. Does the game already have ancient heroes, forgotten rulers, or villains whose actions created today's dungeons? And can players expect to encounter echoes of those characters during the beta and beyond? I mean, the answer is yes, but I know you can get into that a little bit more.
I was actually going to be a little coy and literally just say, uh-huh, yep. Not to say you'll be finding any Sith holocrons around, but yes, there are legendary heroes, there are items, there are echoes of ages past, and there might be machinations going on in the Fifth Kingdom that we are at this time unawares of. And through delving, we will become awares of them. Stay tuned.
There you go. Okay. Big Brian 00034 is asking, as the game grows, what design principles will the team never compromise on, even if player demand pushes in another direction? I can answer real quick, and I know Zulfiqar will have his own flavor on it. There's a couple things that come to mind right away when I think of that. Number one, nothing in the system is ever going to break that balance that we've been discussing. So we've been talking about how the system is built on a delicate balance. Nothing will ever be broken just because people want something a certain way. Even if something has to be altered in the system, everything has to fit with each other. It's like you're not going to tear your pants but have a nice shirt, right? They both have to look good. They both have to fit. They both have to fit the occasion. And also, so the design of how the system or how the game looks. It looks a certain way for a certain reason. There's a reason it's not like a 3D render type of game. Not to say we wouldn't come out with one like that in the future, but it's created in a certain way for a certain reason. So those are the two primary things that come to my mind. So, Zulfiqar, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I'm trying to think about how to make it succinct. One is so you'll notice in the store, okay, how do I say this? I don't hate pay to win, but I hate when I try harder than people, but they just are willing to spend more than I do, and they beat me up on the leaderboards. It irks me on occasion, and I am a spender in these games. It's just some people, I'm like, dude, what do you do? Geez, I know what I'm spending. What do you do? Come work for you. You'll notice in our store, there is a USDT option, but also an Ember option. One thing I can promise is that nothing will ever just be purchasable via USDT. So in the store, all items, all one-off characters, all holiday programs, anything we do, free to play free-to-play players will always have the ability to get an item. It will never be gate-kept strictly through stablecoin purchases or fiat purchases. That is a design principle we want to follow. And then the next thing I'll say is that Shadow and I work in real business, and you can always tell the difference between executives who think they can do everyone's jobs and executives who think that their job is to get out of the way and own the outcome. Jan and Sergey are the developers of this game. It's a privilege for me to say that I own the company that's producing Delvers, but they are the actual game developers, and their opinions are weighed very heavily. We don't tell them how to make the game. We make suggestions. We ask things. Here at Fifth Kingdom, we let the bakers make the bread. You'll hear me say that a lot. I'm not going to tell somebody that I paid for their expertise how to execute their expertise. So when it comes to the design principles, we're going to let people who make video games make the video games. As long as it fits into the lore, as long as it doesn't break immersion, I'm down with it.
There you go. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I know we're coming close on that hour time. Obviously, look, by the way, for any question that you submitted, before even reading the questions, these are things that we've also been discussing as well, most likely. And this next question definitely fits into that category. And this is from First Ace One. It says, looking ahead at the gameplay roadmap, is the game strictly a solo player experience for the beta, or are there plans to introduce co-op dungeon raids or guild-wide leaderboards? You first, Zulfiqar, me second. Go ahead.
Yes, both. It's just a little more difficult. We don't know if it's going to be, candidly, just right now, we're exploring a few different avenues. We don't know if it's going to be just a harder setting so that when you have a group in, like Diablo 3 or Diablo 4, when you add more people to the level, it just makes the monsters overall more difficult, or if it's going to be a completely different setting that people participate in, or like a different mode that groups of people can participate in. And then as far as the leaderboards go, yes, we definitely plan to have guilds represented. And also, some of you will notice that when you log into the website now, there's a citizenship tag. Go claim your username and choose which kingdom you want to represent. That leaderboard, I want to see the different nations represented. And there may be even tournaments and competitions specifically for certain kingdoms. And because everybody loves a hero, I'm an American, we love rooting for people, we love an underdog. There may be times when if somebody from the same kingdom as you happens to win, there could be a benefit for every person that has that citizenship. Who knows? I'm a joiner.
We have discussed what would it look like if you could leave the dungeon and go into the kingdom? And what would it look like if when you went into the kingdom, you saw all the other players in the kingdom? And what would it look like if when you and all the other players in the kingdom were going into shops, engaging and interacting with NPCs and other players? And what if you could see your household in the game? And what if you could actually see your household working in a game? What if you can influence that? Like, the possibilities with that are really endless. So there's the MMO, Second Life RuneScape aspect to it. And there's also like co-op missions. All of that stuff has been discussed and all of that stuff is planned. Just so you know. So it's a great question, and it's that's very exciting, and that also builds into the future token project of Kingdom Builder, which we won't get into too much, but they all play into each other. We'll just put it that way. So Chomsy is asking, as players become more experienced, how is the team designing progression so that mastering the game depends on learning and strategy rather than simply accumulating stronger upgrades? How would you answer that?
That's an interesting question. Your weapon combos are what matter. So we kind of talked about this when we spoke about the game. You can't just choose any 4 weapons and then presume that you're going to blast through the game stages. At certain stages, and especially now that we have more bosses, at certain stages, the gameplay becomes harder. And all of a sudden, certain weapon types that you didn't want to use earlier in earlier stages become more viable. So I'll give you an example. Early on, it's very common for people to get AoE trash clearing weapons. So they get AoE weapons that are trash clearing, and because the boss HP to your stats aren't, there isn't a huge delta, you can make your way through the bosses. Once you get up to stage 7, 8, 10 plus, that doesn't fly anymore. The monsters have too much HP, they're coming too quickly, and the bosses are more powerful. So suddenly, now some of those CC weapons that you didn't get earlier on, now you wish you had them. Some of those damage over time or HP percentage weapons that you didn't get, now you wish you had. Some of those single target weapons that you didn't get, now you wish you had. So it's not just about accumulating stronger upgrades, it's about electing and choosing the best of the 3 options you get and choosing one to re-roll your options. So it's definitely totally strategy based. And you'll see that it's become self-evident once you start once you start making it to those higher stages more often. You'll start. I used to sleep on Tornado. I pick it up every time now because once you hit stage 10, sometimes I just want get away from me. So you got to force push them away.
Exactly.
That's how to answer that question.
So I've noticed that sometimes I just want to. So I play the game in a certain way, and for example, I'm going to be Iron Sentinel. I'm going to start off as Iron Sentinel or some high armored ranged character. And then I'm going to just improve on that, and I'm going to go in a certain direction, just doing range attacks and running away. But that's not always the best strategy. So sometimes I'm thinking, you know what, I'm just going to try something different, something that I wouldn't normally do. So one time I tried maxing out my movement speed just because I wanted to see what kind of impact I had. That has a greater impact than you'd realize, because even with a character that doesn't have a lot of armor that can die quickly, if you're fast enough, you can run through a crowd before they can even attack you, if you're fast enough, right? That's a strategy that if you don't try that, you actually don't know even exists. I tried, and now my favorite character is the Masked Brawler. It's my favorite character, even though it has a melee attack. Once you get his life steal, his movement up, he's actually one of the better characters because he regenerates health quickly. It's just a whole thing. So anyway, I found that to be my better character, but a lot of people are not playing that character. So there's just certain people that are better with certain strategies, certain characters, certain loadouts. there's a lot of ways to play this game. It's like if you play, again, going back to the first-person shooter example, there's a lot of people that are great marksmen. There's a lot of people that are great medics. There's a lot of people who are great gunners and soldiers and operators of vehicles in a lot of these games. So you don't have to be good at everything, but you'll find you tend to be good at something, and you're being good at that one thing gives you an advantage over somebody who bought a bunch of stuff, right? For example. So anyway, so there's just a lot of different ways to skin that cat. So I hope that answers that question. And I'll ask the final pre-submitted question here by Ivar the Boneless, my favorite name. Beyond this beta, what long-term milestones are you aiming to achieve before the full release? And also, when is the tentative launch date? Well, the tentative launch date is the end of this month. What other milestones we want to achieve before the full release? That's a dangerous question to ask me and Zulfiqar, because if we could, we would have a lot before the full release. What we tend to do is, as Jan and the team is building something, and I know they could back this up, we'll say, hey, is there any chance we could squeeze this in? And then as they squeeze that in and they're about ready to press the deploy button, hey, wait a minute, is there any chance you can get this in? So that's a dangerous
at least
question
every
to
other
ask.
day. What's your mood
So
like?
if it were up to me, everything in the world would be put into the final release. So that's anyway. So it's again that delicate balance, right? We have humans building it, not AI slop, I'll say. So we have real humans building it, and there's only so many man hours and so much manpower. So we'll see is the kind of the long and short answer of that. Zulfiqar can maybe get a little bit more specific with that, but I just know we have a lot of features we want to put into it, but we just have to see what the time allows us to. And by the way, even before release, that's one component, but after release, and we're going to keep adding things to the game. So even if we don't get it in before release, after release, we've got a long runway to keep building this thing out.
I'm trying to watch what I say. Because just so everyone knows, we have such a phenomenal team. And sometimes Jan and Sergey, what they'll do is they'll hear me say something that I want, and I'm just speaking from like as a fan. And it's interesting. I own the company and I work here, but sometimes I only get the update same time as you guys do. So it's fun for me. And so I don't want to say something because there's things that I want and there's things we've talked about, like on the dream board. And I don't want to, what I don't want is to say what I want in the dream board. And then all of a sudden, I hear a couple buttholes pucker and then they're like, oh, well, now we have to get it or else Zulfi's going to be disappointed. Not the case, but 2 long-term milestones, inshallah, that I would like to see at launch, which is the end of this month. You heard it here first, folks. 2 would be, 1 is weapon combinations. So if you get certain weapons and you're using them together, once they hit certain levels, they fuse and become a new super weapon. That would be pretty sick. It's on the list. I don't know if we'll have it. I don't know if we'll have it by launch. And the second one is I want people to be able to put their NFTs in the game as a skin. So you choose the class you want to play, and then it looks like your NFT. It's also on the dream board. Those are 2 things I would love to see.
Yes.
See how it goes.
Yes. I would. There's a lot of things I'd love to see, but those are definitely some big ones as well. Getting your NFT in the game, having the weapons upgrade and evolve over time would also be great. I would like to see us introduce some things such as like mini bosses, maybe different boss types. So imagine you don't have just a dragon, you have a different type of dragon. So the boss you get could be like an RNG role, for example. And if you defeat that boss, if it's, let's just say, for example, it's a mythic dragon, which I don't even want to imagine what that would be like. But if you got like a mythic dragon and you defeated that mythic dragon, that chest that drops afterward would have a mythic item in it. Something like that, right? Stuff like that. I would like to see RNG rarity with like the enemies. I would like to see hidden things in the map. I would like to see like doors that can open. Where does that door take you? That takes you to a secret level, and that does something. That's a completely different experience. So I'd like to see us being able to have different level ups based upon the character or the attack or the combination of attack you're using. What if the only way to unlock something is to kill a certain number of enemies with chain lightning, with the Iron Sentinel, for example, something like that. It makes it very fresh and unique, ongoing. So there's a lot of different directions we can go in, but I'm not going to get all those before launch, probably. But my vision is pretty grandiose, and like I said, we're limited by money and manpower, and there's a delicate balance as well. So that's the end of the submitted questions. I know we're just at about an hour right now. If we could take just a couple of the chat questions and then we can wrap up here, that would be great. I answered some of these, but if you are not looking at the chat, you will not know that I answered them. So I'm going to audibly tell you as well. So Hamez Benz asked a really good question. Is between beta and full launch, does player progress carry over or does everything get reset? No, everything's going to carry over. So you'll notice, like I said, alpha, if you purchase characters in the alpha, they were not immediately available in the beta. They should be right now, by the way. Go check. Mine are. So if you were missing like a character you purchased in the alpha, that should be available now. If it's not, let me know. I'll get the team to fix that. But the characters you purchased carry over, things like that. So there's always going to be a benefit to being early. And between beta and the full launch, the things you do in beta will definitely carry over as well. So there's always going to be a benefit for that. We're not going to just reset everything for everybody. There's also a question about, do we intend to tokenize this project? The answer is yes. It's called Kingdom Builder. We won't go into that too much, but there's a lot I want to say about Kingdom Builder, but I will get in trouble if I do. But the answer is yes.
It's sick.
Is it possible to have a special power or skill where a particular hero can disappear? Maybe not often, might be once or twice in gameplay. I'm not sure I understand that question, Bird.dorg. Do you understand?
Do you mean like maybe so like a hero call where you have a chance every stage where every minute or so there's a timer where you have a chance to spawn like an ally or something to come in and fight for you.
That would be a great idea.
I'd be lying if I said we didn't think about it, but we actually are focused in a little bit of a different area at the moment. Maybe bringing in companions from the start, things that you purchase or earn in your household and bringing those with you. But first, we have to tackle the co-op system. And then, of course, once I get the boy Zulfi actually in the game, maybe you get a special item and you can whistle and I'll show up and blow up some mobs for you. Chink, chink.
Lucas, your question, what if a bunch of players team up and build a kingdom with only rare companions? Well, there's only so many that exist. So I guess theoretically, if a bunch of people all had rare lords, go ahead. It doesn't break the system. We built it so that it doesn't really matter what you do. You're not going to break anything. There's just no way to do that.
Well, everyone needs to go watch your AMA videos, brother, because I'll just, for the people that are listening here, I'll just let you know, the rarity only matters for discovery rate. And for the aesthetics of the character itself. Outside of that, the secondary traits are completely random. So a common can have a better secondary trait than a mythic has. So in the example that we had where we pulled like 8 NFTs and then created a household out of them, there was one of the rares that didn't even get used. It's just the way the cookie crumbled on that pool. So
check video really, I didn't know what I was going to roll, by the way. I can't force a roll to go my way. So it was really a luck of the draw, as you'll say. But when I was recording that video, I was hoping that I would roll some different options here that I can really show you guys, and I did. So go watch that video. It's on our YouTube. It's the one that says Household Strategy. In fact, I would just watch all 3. They're not super long. The higher, which is also known as minting your NFT, the one that goes over the household, and then the one that goes over household strategy. But the strategy one will probably answer your question better than any of those, because you'll notice that why did I choose the NFTs I chose? Why did I choose that lord and those companions specifically? You'll see in the video that I chose a common over a rare. Why would I do that? Because its secondary was so much greater than the rare that I already had a rare in my primary lord position, so I'm not going to use another rare as a companion. It doesn't make sense. The common actually had a better secondary. So these are things that as you watch that video, you're going to be like, oh, that makes sense. So it's one of those things where that's why I recorded it, because as many times as I say it, unless you can visualize it, visualizing it really puts it all together. So if you haven't checked that video out, please check that video out. And by the way, I will let you guys know that I've been working really, really hard on a brand new light paper. It is done. I finished it yesterday, but I do need to plug it into the site and get that published publicly. It's on a hidden link right now, so I'm going to get that out today. So you will see an announcement when that's out. It's going to break this down really well. If you're somebody that likes to read and you like to see a lot of graphics to explain things, that light paper should be out today, Lord willing. I would have had it out sooner, but I had some family commitments that got in the way earlier this week, or I would have had it out a couple days ago. But that will be out today. So check that out and check the YouTube videos out, please. I think it will answer a lot of questions. Just trying to go over the chat questions a little bit here to see if there's anything we missed.
Here's one somebody asked about. Let's see. JT. In crypto, as we know, nothing is promised. What precautions will the team take or planning on taking if all things go south or peradventure did not go as expected? Candidly, I don't know. I won't say I don't know what you mean. I think I'm getting what you're asking. However, you really need to read our system, because what I think you're presuming are not things that could even affect us. So in crypto, nothing's promised. That's true. That's the best effort. What precautions will the team take or plan if everything goes south? What do you mean go south? Bitcoin could go to fucking zero. Well, pardon my French. Bitcoin could go to zero tomorrow. It's not going to affect us at all. What I build isn't affected by what some Epstein Island adventurer does on his weekends, or what some degen does with his meme coins. Nothing they do will ever affect us. So the market can go south. All people are going to do is look at you with green eyes saying, oh my gosh, I wish I would have bought that. Oh no, wait, how come you guys aren't going to zero? Because we're not dependent. We're not a reflections token, and we're not a meme coin. It's not a gamble. It's a system. So there really is, I'm not going to say there's, I'm trying to figure out, I'm just being candid, thinking of what a worst case scenario would be. If nobody buys the NFTs, well, some people are allergic to money. It happens. Let's see here. That's about it. And if that didn't answer your question, feel free to rephrase it in the chat real quick while we're here. Just because I presume those are presumptions that are based off typical Web3 companies or typical projects where, well, what if the hype doesn't get met? What if the resale value goes down? What if the floor price goes down? That has nothing to do with the rice in China. The Fifth Kingdom stands on its own, singular, stoic, resolute. Whatever happens in the rest of crypto does not affect us at all. There is no bag to be left holding from one citizen to another, and there is no bag left to be held from one crypto degen to you. Awesome.
There you go. It's very well
You're the
said.
best.
Very well said. There was I worry about
thebomb.com.
we're an hour and 10 in. By the way, if you asked a question and maybe the way we answered it was like, I want to rephrase my question, reach out to us after this is over. Reach out to us, DM us, tag us. We don't bite. I'm gonna answer one last question, then we can wrap this up. And I lost who wrote it. I remember the question. I just don't know who wrote it because I lost where it was. But the question was basically, in this new update, what is a feature or what is something that people will underestimate initially? Okay, so in a lot of games, when you buy something, it can be a consumable, which means it's a one-time use. But then there are things you can buy that are permanent. Again, the items in the store will be attached to your wallet. There are perks in the store that you could purchase. The perks are permanent, so I don't care what character you select. If you get an increase on your attack or you get an additional projectile, that will apply to any character you choose. I think that could be a little bit of a underestimated thing, especially as we start hosting competitions and give away real USDT prizes. There are certain advantages. Now, there's no guarantee. Just so you know, we had all in the demo before it was released, we had all of the store items. There's a point where the game still gets hard, even with every single item. Now, I would rather have the items than not because it makes it a lot easier. But if you're trying to climb the leaderboard, having a permanent increase on your attack or your speed or your projectiles or your movement or anything like that is major. And especially as it carries across every single character that you choose. Those additional weapons, those attacks, those weapons you can buy in the store, they are amazing. They are purchasable for a reason. And again, any character can get those weapons when you choose them. So, and you purchase them and bring them into the game. So I think things like that are permanent across the entire landscape of your character selection will be underestimated. Zulfiqar, do you have anything to add on to this final question?
Nope.
Easy.
Sorry, I gotta calm down. I got a little worked up. I dropped an F-bomb. Ugh. But actually, yes, I feel like Conor McGregor. I could go into detail.
I feel it's normal because you're like genuine. You're just like, you're just expressing like you're expressing your emotions, or like, because like when you build the project and you know that it will work and you're just expressing it. So the things that happens.
Sorry guys, Tiger got out of the cage. Once again, like we said, ownership is ownership, and we've all had the rug pulled out from underneath us. We've all had people promise one thing and then not deliver on it. We are giving you a product before we ever put the first NFT out for sale, and we're letting you play the product right now. One thing I can promise you, now, maybe one day I'll dox, and then I'll be able to swear by my name, and you guys will know who I am. But for those of you who know, I swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal, there will never be a happening at the Fifth Kingdom. The rates and the NFTs that you roll will be there forever, for as long as the system is in existence. The only time your rates will be changed, the only time that your NFT will be adjusted is if you elect to adjust it. If you add a title, if you add a bloodline, if you do something, when you elect to do something, that is the only thing that is going to change your user experience. And that is something we can promise you. We will not change anything. You will change it. And that's another thing that separates us from those that came before.
Jean-Claude, you have anything you want to announce before we wrap up?
I want to say for all the community, I want to tell you just to be sure to participate on our art on and meme contest. So it's live. You have until Tuesday. I think it's 2 p.m. UTC to submit or to do your submissions. We already have a lot of submissions, a lot of nice submissions. So be sure to participate and tune in to next week events.
Thank you. Thank you. We're having some great submissions in that contest. So if you haven't had a chance, please consider it. I'm not a super artsy person, if I can be honest with you. So I know some people are like me. You're not super artsy, but give it a try. It's you miss 100% of the shots that you do not take in life. So as we wrap up here, I'll try to get this AMA uploaded. I got a lot on my plate, probably by Monday, if not sooner. But keep an eye on the light paper. I'm going to try to get that out today if I can. I'll make an announcement as soon as that is put out. It's going to be a major improvement. I'm going to also do a video walkthrough of the new game updates. If you have not played the game update, please go and check it out and play it. Just play around with it. We're officially, like I said, in beta now. And we do have a couple of bugs that are being worked on, but nothing like super major. I'll give you an example, just one of them right now. When you hit the pause button, you're supposed to be able to see your tasks and where you are progressing. That's being worked on. There's just certain things that are being worked on, but they're not like major game-changing things. So go play the game. I will do a video walkthrough of that. If you haven't checked out my video walkthroughs, I would highly recommend that you consider doing that because it answers a lot of questions about your lore, your household, your strategy, and all that. So stay tuned for that. We're also working on a wiki. So it's going to be a wiki that's designed around the game as well as the system itself. So we're in heavy build mode and heavy development and building things and delivering value. Notice that we're doing this before we bring in $1 because I feel like you have to come to the table with value before you ask for anything in return. With that, guys, we appreciate you being here. Again, if you didn't get your question asked and you want to ask a question, general chat, tag us, send us a friend request, DM us. And Zulfiqar, anything you want to end on before we wrap up?
No, just thank you, everyone, for being here with us. And let's do this thing.
As I always say, guys, time is currency, and it's the one currency you never get back. So when people give me their time, I'm incredibly gracious, or grateful, rather, even more so than money. You can get money back, but you cannot get time back. So we thank you for being here, guys. And until next time, take care. God bless. We'll talk soon.